I think there's some last semester with me, like chastising Pedro, but... Okay. So I titled today's lesson, the whole idea, like when we studied last class and we looked at this idea of dual federalism, that while that is definitely still a big component of our system, federalism at its heart is probably one of the biggest sources of conflict in American politics. If you watch a presidential debate, like once we get in between the parties and you hear the Republican and Democratic candidates, the rhetoric that you hear coming from them can very, very often be traced to these concepts of federalism. So we want to kind of see just an overview of how federalism has evolved and changed over time. We're going to end today with me kind of showing you how you write for AP Government, just a little bit of an introduction, and we'll use that content for all of this. Okay? So if you look on the screen, you've got some terms, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands what these words are. So if you will find the cards for dual federalism, cooperative federalism, fiscal federalism, intergovernmental relations, and revenue sharing, and just read over them there at your table, make sure you understand what that means, and then you can ask me any questions that you might have. You are writing down, don't write anything yet, but you're going to make a timeline, but it is your notes. You will do with it whatever you want to do with it, okay? But for now, I just wanted you to look at those words. That's it. All you do is read the cards, Mateo, this time. That's all you do. Just read them. Okay, so all of those concepts that are going to apply today, and we're going to see, I got asked a really good question yesterday. So how can we be federalism if we have dual and fiscal and cooperative? Like, they didn't understand. Federalism is a big word that means a division of power. How you choose to exercise that division of power can have elements of dual federalism. It can be cooperative. You can use fiscal federalism. So, like, all of those things kind of fall under our umbrella, and our purpose today is to kind of see, like, how we've evolved. Like, well, why do we do that? Like, when was dual federalism a big deal? Cooperative federalism come into play, and why? And then how does fiscal federalism fit in? We do all of these things in America today. Like, we have components of all of them, but we just want to understand why, because most of them are to achieve some kind of desired political end. You know what happened on a date, you just need to understand the sequence of events, like what came first versus how we ended. All of these things were in your reading that you had last night, except for Arizona versus U.S., I don't think was discussed in your reading, and Heart of Atlanta Motel versus the U.S., and then U.S. versus Lopez. So real quick, I'm going to go over those, but while I'm talking about them, if you want to go ahead and pull these cards out, because these are the ones you guys are going to put in a time order, okay? So all three of those court cases, while at their heart may not be a debate over federalism, there are things that have impacted federalism in their decision. Okay, so I'm going to start with Arizona versus the U.S. A lot of you probably heard about this. Remember that a couple years ago, Arizona passed a law that said that their local police, if they encountered somebody that they thought might be an illegal immigrant, they were allowed to ask the person for their papers. It was dubbed the Papers, Please law. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, so basically what they were doing is Arizona says we have a real illegal immigration problem, and that the national government isn't enforcing immigration policy, and so we're going to do it. And so I'm going to walk up to somebody, and if I think they might not be a natural-born citizen, then I'm going to say, hey, can I see your papers? And then she'll go, look, I was born in America. But basically what it was said is the concern was that it might lead to some kind of profiling. Arizona's argument is that, look, you are not taking care of this immigration problem. So that went to court. The court nullified significant portions of the Arizona Act. And the reason they did is because who is responsible for immigration policy? the national government. So they said, Arizona police, it's not their job to walk around trying to deport people. Like, they can't do that. So they nullified portions of the law. The other case we need to look at is U.S. versus Lopez. It was in your reading, but they don't bold it. So you might have kind of, just gone over it. U.S. versus Lopez was a case in the 1990s. It was one of the most important cases that was decided then. There's a kid in San Antonio. He takes a gun to school, and he is arrested. But he's arrested for violating a federal law. The federal law is called the Gun-Free Zone Act, where it makes it a federal crime to take a gun within a certain proximity of a school. So they don't argue that he took the gun to school. I mean, he took it. But the argument of his attorney before the court is, while he took a gun to school, the federal government doesn't have a right to tell you that you can't take a gun within a certain proximity of a school. Because who is in charge of schools? States. So they said, why is the federal government getting involved? So the federal government in court, they have to defend themselves, and their argument is this. We, Congress, are in charge of interstate commerce. When people take guns over state borders and sell them, that makes gun crime worse. So, because we're in charge of interstate commerce and guns travel, we can regulate guns in schools. The Supreme Court said no. But the reason that's a big deal, that's the first time they told them that they had gone too far in regulating state activity since the Great Depression. So, and that case was in 1990. So it was like 60 years that they were letting Congress regulate whatever they wanted. And nobody in the decision says, oh yeah, take guns. You have to make sure that you regulate what you have authority to regulate, okay? The other case that I wanted that was not in your reading is called Heart of Atlanta Motel versus U.S. And I should have done this one in the middle because this is a civil rights case. So I'm not sure the exact date, but this is a civil rights era case. It's right after the passage of the Civil Rights Act. So remember, the Civil Rights Act said that you cannot discriminate on the basis of race and sex, and then it goes on, okay? So if you can't discriminate on the basis of race, well, we have this hotel in Atlanta, and they have segregated facilities. And their argument is, we are in Georgia. We are a hotel in Georgia. How can the national government come in and tell us what to do? We provide facilities for everybody. You have no right to regulate this. So they're taken to court. They challenge the Civil Rights Act. And the argument of the national government is, we have people traveling over state borders to come stay at our hotel. When they do that, they buy coffee and gas, and they engage in interstate commerce, which means that we can regulate what you do at your hotel in the name of interstate commerce. And the Supreme Court agreed. So largely, the Civil Rights Act is going to be accomplished by justifying it as commerce, and the court saying, absolutely, totally, we're going to let you do that. And that's why the Lopez case was such a big deal, because that was the first time they said no. Okay? All right, so what I want you to do, take these things, put them in sequential order as best you can, all right? And then we'll check it. So don't write them down before we check it.